having this hybrid approach to the combination of verified data and also traditional behavioral, what are the benefits for publishers?
One of the big trends that I'm seeing right now is that brands are realizing that each of them are a source of authority. Publishers are able to monetize their data so that retailers and brands, they understand what people are interested at the very, very top of the funnel. This is where publishers are going to come in, and they're going to have a tremendously strong hand to be able to monetize their data for those that are looking for interest in the exact thing that they're publishing.
Welcome to The Pubway, an original podcast by SeedTag, the global leader in neurocontextual advertising. Join us as we sit down with leaders from across the media ecosystem to unpack the trends, challenges, and innovations shaping the supply side of ad tech. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Pubway podcast. My name is Tina Yanakino.
And I'm Mike Villalobos. And in today's episode, we're talking about the evolving role of data and identity in advertising. But more importantly, or not just as important as the demand side, on the publisher side, what verified and conventional data is playing and how it's actually merging with publishers and what they should be looking at when evolving into identity, legislation by state, and all the fun stuff around privacy.
And joining us in this super non-complex conversation is Carter Lassy, the Chief Product Officer at SheerID. Hi, Carter. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. It's great to be with both of you.
Awesome. And Carter, for our audience, it'd be great to give a little context to your role with SheerID and your background.
Sure. So I'm the Chief Product Officer of SheerID. I joined them late last year. SheerID is a verified data marketing platform. We help brands connect with high-value audiences like students, educators, military, first responders. And we do that through verified privacy-first data. So I have about 20 years experience in MarTech, ad tech, e-commerce, consumer data, and I've worked at Experian, Verizon, and Cheetah Digital. So my specialization is, or specialty is productizing, is data productization and architecture. So I live in Los Angeles with my wife and my daughter and our two dogs. So that's a bit about me.
I love it. Well, I mean, the fact that you're already a Cali guy, I'm already a fan. I'm from the Bay Area, so naturally I have an affinity towards you as it stands. But I think just to kick things off at a very understandable level, verified data versus non-verified data, I think that'd be super helpful for listeners to understand, for folks who are trying to learn, what does that actually mean? How can I use it? How does it apply to MarTech or ad tech?
Sure. So verified data, in certainly the way that we see it, it's authoritative, right? We work with data sources or data brokers that have a right to that data. Typically, authoritative data or verified data, it's from a certain domain. It's typically an official source. It's a government source. It's an aggregator of different university and college registrars. So it is about the absolute most authoritative type of data that you can have. It is not a complete picture of anything. It is one very important component of who a person is. You still need to link that to a strong backbone of digital identity. And then if we compare that to non-verified or non-authoritative data, it can be derived, it could be self-attested. We can consider any sort of preference data to be non-authoritative because we never can absolutely confirm it, or any sort of derived identity that, say, is derived from presence in a university versus absolutely being sure that they're a currently enrolled student at that university. So that's kind of the difference between the two.
Awesome. And then, because this is the Pubway, what are some examples of how publishers are using verified data today?
Sure. So right now, they're using it kind of in concert with their traditional behavioral or contextual data. As I mentioned before, is that identity kind of acts as the trunk of a tree, right? It really has to establish that you are a human person, you exist, and then all the other types of data basically hang off those the tree like branches, right? So the five major branches that we kind of look at are demographics, what that person is, preferences, what that person likes or is interested in, behaviors, what that person did, moments and real time states, what that person is doing right now, and then predictive, what that person is going to do next. So in advertising, certainly with publishers, like you can get any piece of that. You can have behavioral data or contextual data without any knowledge of whether that person is, even what that person is, where they are, or even what their gender is. And you can still target based on that data. But again, bringing together the multiple layers of the different types of data tied together with a very strong, unique ID or central point of identity. That's how you get a full picture, and that's how you get something that's portable and channel independent.
Speaking of getting a full picture, customer life cycles always been really hard to capture. And looking at the evolution of data platforms, whether it be a DMP, a customer data platform, I mean, there are a few out there. I feel like that the CDP or customer data platform was the next iteration of the data manager platform, right? And would love to understand how you've seen this evolve, and how do you think it's evolved for the better? Do you think there are areas we can get better at, even with like the CDP involvement in the ecosystem as well? Would love to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big evolution that I've seen, I mean, a few of the big ones that I've seen in my career. Number one is that brands want one source of data that can be activated throughout the customer life cycle instead of multiple wells of data that are tied to advertising, that are tied to top of the funnel, that are tied to loyalty. They want to bring all that together. I mean, that is the common selling point of any CDP, of any omni-channel marketing platform. It is far more marketing than it is reality. It is a very difficult thing to do. It's getting better over time. So one of the big evolutions that I've seen and I've experienced with acquisitions is bringing together CDPs into the omni-channel, where the points of activation, right? You need those two things together to be able to respond in real time. So CDPs have always been great at creating customer profiles for brands. They pull in site data, they pull in commerce data, loyalty, all of that. But at the end of the day, you have to do something with that data, and you need that close to where the customers and the consumers are interacting, right? The last big thing that I've seen is extensibility. When I was at Cheetah Digital, we had one of the most extensible data platforms on the market, right? We were able to basically make a complete copy of somebody's data lake. So they had a lot of flexibility to really get into the weeds of how they want to segment and market and speak to their customers, right? So we had up to one customer, a major retailer, had 60 terabytes of data with us. And what happened over time is they didn't just want to send email with us. They wanted to personalize. They wanted that to go back to their loyalty program and all of that. So bringing together the data and the way you activate the data, that's probably the biggest evolution I've seen over the past 10 years or so.
And just for my notification, why did you look to replicate or duplicate the data lake? Was it just for a testing round and then you're synthetically building off of that, or is it more because of privacy compliance?
A lot of data lakes, they have to, well, number one, a lot of the data that our marketers have, they had to be able to act in both real time and batch. So real time meaning that, somebody calls an email trigger, we have to be able to personalize it in under, say, 500 milliseconds, right? And then on the other hand, we have to be able to run, say, market to 100, 200 million consumers on Black Friday, right? So a lot of the data lake, they're not made for that real time. And of course, they're not hooked up to the channel platform, right? So they had to make that copy so that, again, the data was very close to the way that they were interacting with the consumer. And data lakes typically aren't built that way.
Got it. Yeah. And when you're thinking about how you're kind of combining that data for publishers and advertisers alike, when you're thinking about the verified identity data and the conventional marketing data, how would you address them to approach that combination and more of that hybrid model?
So the hybrid model, I mean, like I said before, you can use any piece of those five different branch types, I said before, between demographic and behavioral. Obviously, online, there is a lot of sort of semi-anonymous targeting based on behavioral. We know that some person was interested in this blog, was viewing, some sort of content on a publisher's site. And so what we're doing here at SheerID is basically blending those two. That once and you don't necessarily need a strong sense of identity within a DMP and to be able to target that, but that does round out the entire understanding of who a consumer is. So when we talk about verified before, we have authoritative points of data that could be used as an anchor so that the non-authoritative pieces can be brought and bolted on top of that in that hybrid model. So you can absolutely have authoritative and non-authoritative together. You absolutely need that to really understand what a consumer is holistically. So being able to link the two together, that's where it gets tricky. That's where you need a durable identifier that's going to be able to bring together the authoritative, which often can be offline data. They can come from registrars, they can come from DMVs, voter rolls, and you have to be able to link that back to their online. So a lot of work is being put around that, but blending together that hybrid view, as you mentioned, absolutely critical to what's going on now. And I think as we see, whatever's going on with the Department of Justice and Google and whatnot, will be more and more important that publishers and brands will have a really good grip on first-party data and be able to connect it wherever they need to connect it.
Oh, we made it 10 minutes before dropping DOJ.
I think having this hybrid approach to the combination of verified data and also traditional behavioral, what are the benefits for publishers? Do you feel like it's are we boiling the ocean here, trying to combine the two? Do you feel like this is one effective, two is it future proofed, right? Because I think there's so much change on the publisher side, especially with how things are being indexed even within SERP and Google rankings and monetization. Do you feel this is helping publishers monetize? Do you feel this is helping publishers understand their audiences better?
I do. I mean, one of the big trends that I'm seeing right now is that brands are realizing that each of them are a source of authority, right? Brands might not have all of the accurate information of somebody's demographics, but certainly a streamer is going to be a source of authority on what musical interests are, what viewing interests are. And really what we're seeing right now is that brands want to speak to each other. And, obviously I deal with brands much more than publishers, but publishers also, I mean, they're going to be points of authority on what the interest is of their visitors and their consumers, right? So obviously the ability for publishers, we see this a lot. It was much bigger in B2B, but I am seeing a rise of it in B2C as well, is that intent data. That publishers are able to monetize their data so that retailers and brands, they understand what people are interested at the very, very top of the funnel. We've been asked for that directly from some of our consumers. Can you get us into the top of the funnel before they even look for a SKU? We want to know that they're looking for a dishwasher, for example. So we want to know that they're looking for some high-priced durable good before they actually know what they're looking for. This is where publishers are going to come in, and they're going to have a tremendously strong hand to be able to monetize their data for those that are looking for interest in the exact thing that they're publishing.
Absolutely. And when we're looking at data activation overall and across multiple platforms, I feel like we can't also speak about walled gardens. And obviously with Google DOJ's announcement, there's definitely some industry implications that have come out of that regarding data activation there. And what have you been seeing from that?
Yeah, I mean, with Google, obviously that book is not totally written yet. So we're waiting. I believe they're waiting on appeals, and these things last quite a long time. I think that we're going to see more by the end of this year. Obviously, the Department of Justice has dropped strong recommendations that they break it up at least into three. That they break off the what is it the ADX exchange from the demand side DV360 from the ad manager, right? The supply side. So if that happens, obviously you're going to see the rise of smaller players, if you want to call, I guess, Trade Desk is smaller than not exactly small, but you're going to see a lot. I think. I'm sorry.
I would have called them small anymore at this point.
I wouldn't
We're
call them
totally
small. I
dependent.
think they're smaller compared to Google, but I
Yeah,
mean,
that's fair.
we partner with them. They're a great partner, a great platform. So the question is, does that send a chill down some of the other walled gardens, the social media sites and whatnot? Do they self-regulate? Do they make their data more open? That would be very exciting, I think, for everybody. And this is what I kind of see is, I don't think it's being asked for directly, but is there the idea of a channel agnostic sort of clean room, right? There is a big demand for brands to come together in a very consumer first, privacy first manner to exchange data that's opted in, to basically create journeys across multiple sites, across multiple brands, right? Um, so I would think that walled gardens, I would hope that they become more accessible, that we get more data portability, that is strongly coupled with security, that's privacy compliant, and that we'd be able to start bridging these silos and do things in a way that benefit publishers and brands, but also are really in control of the consumers. That they only expose what they need to expose in a value exchange to get what they need from the different brands, content providers, and whatnot, to give them that sort of online experience that they're looking for.
I think you mentioned kind of giving advertisers and brands kind of a unified front, but there's also the hurdle of bridging data across the upper funnel and lower funnel, right? Upper funnel is oftentimes going to be CTV, online video, maybe a little bit audible as well. But then you have the retargeting through display mechanisms as a way to find efficiency. How do you unify that data across the funnel to ensure that it is providing the right customer journey and you're getting the obvious kind of facts around how to optimize for the experience and also the economics?
And more of an open garden instead
Exactly.
of a walled garden.
I like that.
Right. I mean, you mentioned the three, and we dealt with this before. The three big ones is CTV, online video, audio. That's a real tough one. That if we could solve that, we could solve anything. Now, obviously, a lack of a single identifier across those three devices is very tough. They have very different consumption modes, which provide or impose very different challenges. CTV is a single device. I mean, it's pretty static. Who knows is in front, guests, family members, the dog, who's in front of it. We don't really know, with very different viewing habits. So you're going to have some sort of a household level ID that's very noisy, right? Audio is the opposite. It's basically, it's a set of all your different walled gardens, your Spotify, your Apple Music and whatnot. Often music gets downloaded that does not map to ad impressions. It's untrackable for the most part, and then video. There's a lot of it that have anonymous sessions through streaming apps. There's a lot of walled gardens with that one as well. It's kind of a blend. And then there's no standardization, not just IDs, but data. I mean, content types, categories, ad metadata, viewing metadata, all of that. So it's really, really tough. I think the best shot at bringing all of that together is to work with different providers that have a very rich graph, or very rich multi-ID and multi-device graph, like the Trade Desk, like LiveRamp, that are evolving so that at the very least they're able to target and plug into the graph with hashed email or UID2, which typically anybody is going to have in an account. That's the best way. It's got a long way to go. Probably the pullback of the cookie apocalypse with Chrome didn't help matters there. So it's really not solved. You're going to see a lot of people trying to solve that problem. So there's a long way to go. So I think to solve it, you're going to see a lot of smaller peer-to-peer sort of partnerships to solve that problem, sharing data, and hopefully enough of them get together and standardize on some sort of ID, and it just kind of grows out, sort of like Facebook started in one college in one city and basically started growing out. It'll kind of be a viral sort of effect, which is kind of what I hope.
I'll say I want to push back a little bit on the ID component, because there's so many disparate pockets within the identity factor, whether it be an IP address, HEMS, mobile ad IDs are deprecated, IDFA deprecated, right? So there's all these components that seem to be halfway there, but not all the way there, and that causes for a quarter of the solution, right? So my comment is, and also my comment goes into like OLV or even display, where you have cookies that have been prevalent there. The open web was not made for large language models. The content is not made for LLMs. So when it's not made for LLMs, the transformer component that goes into targeting and roping everything together, because now everyone's like, put the ChatGPT, but it's open source. It's like, that's not how that works. LLMs are fundamentally not built for this. They're adopting it through vectors, etc. My point though is, I think I would push to say, get away from just the one-to-one marketing, because not everyone's a monolith, and look at it from a holistic content consumption, and then focus and find an anchor that allows you to get a 360 view across audio, across video, across open web in a way that's probabilistic, but at the same time, a clearer view than just myopically looking at, this is IP address, this is household, co-viewing of X, and they like watching Breaking Bad, right? I think it's too pedantic sometimes when you look at the one-to-one version of it. But again, you're the CPO, I'm just a guy. Would love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all. The problem is the problem is that identity is kind of like a cloud. I mean, the way that you basically have a nucleus, which is whatever we can basically determine to be absolute identity. And authoritative data is definitely part of that. It really exists at the nucleus that we really absolutely believe it. And then around the cloud are the areas that are channel specific, that are really going to that are going to help address and connect to somebody within a specific channel. And that's where you get the more ephemeral, the less authoritative points of identity. Like you mentioned, IP address can be very inaccurate because of home routers, and cable modems. They could be ephemeral. Cookies, obviously, like that. They're being blocked everywhere. So you really need that sort of nucleus that you trust, that's durable, and then you can bolt on all the things that are more ephemeral. So it's not any one answer, but how we determine that absolute source of authority, even that is very difficult to do, right? And digital identity, at least in the United States, it's becoming more of a thing. Overseas has yet to be consolidated in the United States. That's the closest thing we'd be able to start. And then you have basically an official email address, and then you can bolt on all the other addressable channel IDs on top of it. So it's not an exact science, but it is something that I think is, if not getting more standardized, is just getting more dominant.
That's hard.
Absolutely. And I think there's like clearly infinite modalities for people to juggle when they are evaluating, considering different partners to work with. What would you suggest from like a publisher perspective when they're evaluating partners to work with? Is there like a checklist they can go through when we're juggling all of that?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're looking certainly for authoritative data, there is is there a domain understanding? What are you going after? Do they have a rights to that domain? For example, like students or military. Is it from a trusted source? What they're working with, and typically, and this is another one, if they're not transparent about where they're sourcing their data, what rights you have exactly, how that data is accessed, how often it's accessed, all of that. So you have a very clear sense of what you're getting, and the provider that you're working with has absolute rights to that data, and by extension, you have rights to the data as well. That's a big one on the checklist. Obviously, quality. Are you able to take that data and overlay it with a set of your data that you trust and are able to assess that there is a good positive match? Are you able to, does it have the granularity you want? Obviously, a lot of bureau data is household level. versus a lot of authoritative data, it's going to be individual level. So are you going to be able to target and understand the consumer versus the household? And then compliance and security, look at does it check the boxes of everything, both within the United States, and if you're targeting like we do overseas. There are very big regulations, obviously like GDPR. Then there's lots and lots of smaller regulations, especially around parental consent, that vary very differently in different countries, right? So sticking to all of that is very important. And then the last one I'd say is compatibility, kind of what we talked about before with the nucleus and the data, the cloud. Are you going to be able to take whatever the unique identifier that you're getting from the authoritative data and then extend that out to the different channels that you want to connect to? So those are the big ones. And then being able to expose that data within, say, a DSP or a DMP. And you're going to be able to get right down to the device or channel, and be able to utilize that data to get at those people through those devices and channels. Like those are the big ones that anyone in search of data should be looking for.
Yeah, and I want to kind of grab onto one of your first points, which was trustworthy data. Like how are we defining trustworthy data in 2025?
And will it change next
And
year?
will it change? Yeah. With AI only learning from AI.
Exactly.
There are a lot of, obviously you want to do a full Google search. Are there lawsuits against, there are a lot of lawsuits around there with very, very big providers. I would be looking for that. I would be looking for any sort of data breach with that provider. All of those things they can snowball downhill to the end user and certainly the consumer by exposing them to it. So you want people to, you want to be working with providers that obviously have a very clean record. And like I said before, they have a legal reason for the data. You're certain that it's authoritative. They are very clear why they have access to that data. They're fully compliant with privacy laws. Their reputation is good, like I said, around data breaches. And of course, do they have a business model that's consumer first, right? That their consumers are protected. The consumer always comes first. We work for them. So the data has to follow that as well. So you kind of see all that. And you get a good feeling, but you really should dig into that. And then, of course, if there's full disclosure, we keep our providers. It's proprietary knowledge at SheerID. But of course, if any of that was disclosed, are these providers that you as a brand or a publisher would want to be associated with if that were known? So, it has to pass a smell test. And once you pass the smell test, you kind of dive into the specifics. And make sure the contracts are very transparent. And all of those are the things that we look for here.
Speaking of smell, let's
Well,
figure out.
Smell is a powerful sense.
You're not wrong, but I mean, speaking of, I guess, smell and your sixth sense for innovation, I would love to learn. And as we wind things down here, would love to hear your thoughts on what's like a latest trend outside of AI. I think that's the obvious one where people are going to for just general efficiencies, but what's a trend innovation that you're seeing that we should look out for as a publisher network and also demand side over the next 12 months and even 24 months in the forefront?
I would say, since you won't let me say AI, I was going to say AI. Well, I mean, I felt I would be remiss in not mentioning AI. It's an easy one, but yeah, I mean, there is I'll kind of skirt on the AI thing with something non-AI. I think the big one that I'm seeing, and I actually, a shameless plug, was just published on this with the ANA, is around. We're seeing, I think we're not being asked specifically for it, but there is a big ask. I mean, it's nothing new, right? But that sense of data partnerships with complementary brands to be able to share their data and cross monetize their data directly. And I think that will extend to greater and greater networks. It sort of is like the idea of a clean room, except it's channel agnostic, right? And that's something that we're exploring here at SheerID, is basically if brands are able to get at each other's data in a way that is opted in, that's secure, it's closed, it's private, to basically build a cross-brand journey Obviously, any sort of trip is a literal journey, but a great example of where data, not just marketing should be used to alert customers and help them solve their problems, right? But at the end of the day, brands are really there to solve a customer need or a customer problem. And so a literal journey and a trip, there are a lot of apps able to operationalize data in a way that airlines can connect to hotels, can connect to rideshare, can connect to points of entertainment and dining and all of that. And it's something that they can do with a tremendous amount of engineering, conversations on all that. But can they plug into any sort of network that can enable that? There are more and more asks around that I'm seeing. And that goes exactly to the openness of data and why I hope that walled gardens, they become more open and whatever happens with Google. And a lot more of the data is exposed as something that's consumer privacy first, but also solves a problem for the consumer by able to connect them between different key brands that solve a real lifetime problem for them. So journeys aren't just email journeys and multi-channel journeys where you click on something and get an email a week later. You don't click, you do this. They're real life journeys, and brands are trying to solve that in a way that's very scalable and cost effective.
Yeah, they're scenic, one could say. Awesome, Carter. Well, no, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time today. Welcome back anytime.
Great. I had a blast, and love to be back on. And best of luck with everything. I really look forward to everything you guys are doing.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Carter.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pubway podcast. This episode is brought to you by SeedTag, the global leader in neurocontextual advertising. Learn more and reach out to us at seedtag.com.